Hi, my friends. This is your old buddy Tim here with you as we journey through the Bible and consider what it has to say to us day by day. Our reading for today was in First Kings chapters 19 and 20. Uh, this is the part of the story of Elijah where many people have said Elijah was depressed after the Mount Carmel victory. And he may have been depressed. I can see why you might infer that from some of his actions. Um, I'm not totally convinced that he may have just needed some time away after the great victory at Mount Carmel. Jezebel was not on board with everyone who wants to serve the Lord. In fact, she sent a message to Elijah, I'm going to kill you. You get 24 hours to live. And so he left. He went 80 miles to the south to Beersheba and left his servant there and then continued on his own. And no doubt he was physically exhausted from a trip like that. Um, But Jesus went through that with his disciples. In fact, he encouraged them. In Mark chapter 6:31, he said unto them, Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while. For there are many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. And they're not depressed, but they did need the time to just get away for a while and rest. The Bible teaches cycles of work and rest. They're both important for all of us. And Um, obviously, Elijah needed time to rest and to get away. He sleeps for a while and then, provided with bread and water from an angel. He sleeps some more. He eats a second time. And then he fasts for 40 days after that, like Moses did. And he goes on to Horeb, which is Mount Sinai of all places, like Moses did. He finds a cave and he lodges there for a while. And then God appears to him. Don't know how long he was there before the Lord made his appearance. But in 1 Kings 19, verse 9, the Lord asked him the question, What doest thou here, Elijah? And his response is in verse 10. He said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, and the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword, and even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. That's what I'm doing here. Obviously, the Lord knew why he was there, but maybe Elijah needed to think about that himself at that point. What am I doing here? Well, he's trying to survive under a misconception. He thought he was the only one left, and if he died, there would be no prophet at all left in Israel. And so God said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And can't you picture Elijah as he goes to the mouth of the cave that he was in and looks out? And verse 11 says, Behold, the Lord passed by, and a great strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. Interesting that God reveals himself through his word, through his voice, similar to Moses. He was there on the same mountain, asked to see God's glory. And Exodus 34 describes the Lord descends in a cloud and stood before him there, and he proclaimed the name of the Lord. And he said, The Lord God, merciful and gracious, long suffering, abundant in goodness and in truth, keeping mercy for thousands, and forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and by no means clear the guilty. God reveals himself, not through spectacular phenomenon, but in his word, in a voice that we can understand. And I think God knows. Maybe that's the most we can handle with uh, our physical bodies we have right now. But for Elijah, God speaks to him and gives him his next assignment. He clarifies, "You're not alone. There are more. It's more than just you and that I have in Israel. But you've got a job to do. Okay, number one, anoint two new kings. There's one in Israel and one in Syria, and then find your replacement." Elijah, Elisha. I appreciate that God's compassion, and he didn't rebuke him for being there and taking some time away. But he realized, okay, you've had your time away. Now it's time to get back to work, and you have a job to do. Anoint two kings, find your replacement. Now, all of us should be looking toward our future. Who's going to be next to take my place? Who's going to step in here? I don't care how old or how young you are. I recently heard a sermon where someone pointed out an obvious truth that all of us are interim ministers. I don't care how old you are, how young you are, how long you've been at one place. We're all here temporarily. We need to be thinking about what comes next in the future and maybe who's going to replace us. God's servants come and go, but God's work goes on forever. I can relate somewhat to what Elijah was doing here from my own experience. When my wife died, I had a number of people who were encouraging me, maybe you just need to get away for a while. And at that time, I was in a very difficult interim ministry. I agreed to give that particular church 6 months, and I was only halfway into that ministry. And so I completed what I told them I would do, finish the 6 months, and spent a month in Jerusalem. Just found an apartment there in downtown Jerusalem. And it was just a chance to get away and to think and learn some things. I was within walking distance of the old city. I was in the old city most days. There, I'd walk over there. It was right around the corner from a church, there, Jerusalem Baptist Church. That was a great encouragement for me. But it's just a time to get out my Bible and pray and read and think and be nourished and refreshed. And sometimes we need time like that, and maybe that's what's going on with Elijah. If I have a chance, I'll ask him someday what he was going through. But keep that in mind. We need to work. Work is important, and we need times of rest and recovery as well. But to consider that, will you? And to get into the Word, and we'll finish up First Kings tomorrow in chapter 21 and 22. We're looking forward to being with you again then. Have a great day, folks.